I didn't plan to spend the night in the forest, and I keep coming back to that thought because it matters more than anything else. I didn't wake up that morning thinking I'd be sleeping on frozen ground, listening to the woods breathe around me. I didn't drive out there looking for danger or mystery or whatever it was that found me instead. I went there for quiet, for space, for the kind of silence you can't find anywhere else anymore. I'm 37 years old. I live in Colorado. I design systems that are supposed to be predictable, measurable, safe. I like things that make sense. I like causes and effects. When something breaks, I want to know why. That's who I've always been. And that's probably why this still bothers me so much. Because no matter how many times I replay that night in my head, there are parts of it that simply don't fit together. The hike itself was supposed to be easy, a familiar trail, one I'd walked before in warmer seasons. Winter changes things, sure, but I was prepared. Proper boots, thermal layers, a tent that had never failed me, a sleeping bag rated for temperatures colder than anything the forecast predicted. The weather report mentioned light snow late in the evening, nothing aggressive, nothing urgent. I remember checking it twice, standing in my kitchen with a cup of coffee, feeling confident enough to go alone. For the first few hours, everything felt normal. The forest was quiet but not unsettling. Snow clung to branches and muffled my footsteps. The air smelled clean, sharp, almost metallic. I walked at a steady pace, breathing slowly, enjoying the way my thoughts gradually thinned out until there wasn't much left in my head at all. That's when the sky changed. It didn't darken the way you'd expect. It didn't slowly dim or turn heavy with clouds. It was more like someone had reached down and wiped it clean, draining it of color, leaving behind something pale and hollow, the kind of sky that doesn't look like it belongs to a normal day. Snow began to fall soon after. At first, it was gentle, almost hypnotic, thick flakes drifting straight down, catching the light before settling into the existing blanket on the ground. I remember stopping for a moment just to watch it, feeling oddly calm, even grateful to be there. Then the wind arrived. Not violently, not dramatically, it just shifted, and suddenly the snow wasn't falling anymore. It was moving sideways, fast enough to sting exposed skin, fast enough to blur the trees together if I didn't focus. Within minutes, the trail markers faded from view. The narrow path I'd been following dissolved into uniform white, and the footprints behind me vanished as if they'd never existed. I slowed down, then stopped completely, my breath fogging up the inside of my hood. The forest around me felt different now. Not louder, not more hostile, just aware. I checked my phone. No signal. The battery indicator had dropped faster than it should have, the cold leaching energy from it the same way it was leaching warmth from my hands. That was the moment I accepted that I wasn't getting out before nightfall. So I did what you're supposed to do. I didn't panic. I didn't start running blindly. I looked for a place that made sense. A small clearing between tall pines, sheltered enough from the wind, flat enough to set up a tent. My fingers were stiff, clumsy, struggling with straps and poles that suddenly felt unfamiliar. The light faded quickly, much faster than I expected, and by the time the tent was standing, the forest had already swallowed the last traces of daylight. I built a fire next, small, controlled, just enough to give off heat and light. The flames flickered orange against the snow, casting long, unstable shadows between the trees. I sat close to it, holding my hands out, listening to the wood crackle and pop. That sound grounded me. It made everything feel manageable again. Fire has a way of doing that. It creates a boundary, a circle where you believe things make sense. I ate slowly, mechanically, more out of habit than hunger, and watched sparks drift upward and vanish into the darkness above. The forest beyond the firelight felt endless, like the trees just kept going forever, standing shoulder to shoulder, watching quietly. That's when I heard the footsteps. They were subtle at first, easy to miss if I hadn't already been on edge. A soft crunch in the snow, followed by another, evenly spaced apart. Not rushed, not careless. I stopped chewing and held my breath, listening. The footsteps weren't random. They weren't circling wildly or approaching in a straight line. They moved with intention, staying just beyond the edge of the firelight, where I couldn't see anything clearly. I told myself it was an animal. That explanation came automatically, like my brain was desperate to settle on something familiar. But animals don't move like that. Not usually. The steps paused. The silence stretched. I could hear my own heartbeat, slow but heavy in my chest. The fire snapped loudly, and I flinched by myself. I let out a quiet laugh, more for my own benefit than anything else, and muttered a few words under my breath, trying to sound calm, human, present. Eventually, the cold pushed me into the tent. I zipped it shut and lay back in my sleeping bag, staring at the dark fabric ceiling. Outside, the fire burned lower, its light weakening, and the forest pressed closer. Inside the tent, every sound felt amplified, the fabric shifting in the wind, the soft creak of trees, the slow rhythm of my breathing. I was just starting to relax when the footsteps returned. Closer this time. They moved slowly, deliberately, crunching through the snow with the same even spacing as before. One step, then a pause, another step, then another pause. They circled the tent, unhurried, as if whoever or whatever was out there had all the time in the world. I sat up, my hands gripping the sleeping bag so tightly my knuckles ached. I thought about shouting, about calling out to let them know I was there, that I was human, that this was a mistake. But something deep inside me resisted that idea. Some instinct I didn't fully understand told me that making noise would be the wrong move. The footsteps stopped beside my head. I heard breathing. It wasn't labored. It wasn't excited. It was slow, steady, controlled, like someone calmly observing something interesting. I stared at the thin wall of the tent, waiting for a shadow to pass over it, waiting for any sign of movement. Nothing. Then a voice spoke. It didn't whisper. It didn't shout. It spoke at a normal volume, clear and precise, close enough that it felt like it was inside the tent with me. It said my name. Perfectly. No hesitation, no distortion, just my name, spoken the way someone who knows you would say it. My mouth went dry. My body refused to move. I couldn't even force myself to close my eyes. I don't know how it knew my name. I still don't. I hadn't told anyone where I was going. There were no other campers, no footprints leading to my clearing. And yet there it was, using the one word guaranteed to get my attention. After that, the forest felt different. Not empty, not silent, attentive, as if everything around me was listening, waiting to see what I would do next. I didn't respond. I didn't breathe louder. I stayed as still as I could, counting seconds in my head until time stopped meaning anything at all. The night stretched on like that. Sometimes the footsteps faded into the distance. Sometimes they returned, pressing close enough that the tent wall bowed inward slightly, as if something was leaning against it, testing it, feeling its shape. I never heard the zipper move. I never felt a hand, just presence, persistent, patient presence. Eventually, without warning, it all stopped. No footsteps, no breathing, no wind. The silence that followed was deeper than anything I'd heard before, so complete it felt unnatural. When pale light finally filtered through the fabric, I unzipped the tent with shaking hands and stepped outside. The clearing was empty. The snow was smooth and untouched, as if the night had never happened.
Almost. Right in front of the tent, perfectly pressed into the snow, were footprints. Human footprints. Bare feet, toes clearly defined, heels sunk deep. They were facing inward, as if whoever made them had been standing there watching me long after I'd stopped being aware of it. I packed up without eating, without resting, and walked until my legs burned and my lungs felt like they might tear. I didn't stop until I reached the road. I never went back to that forest, but sometimes, late at night, when my house is quiet and the world feels thin, I hear footsteps outside my bedroom door. Slow, careful, evenly